War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. Always heavy on the sports here, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. We appreciate you being part of any part of our videos, whether it's a live stream or a video that you can just find here and watch at your leisure. We appreciate you spending some time over here. As you do come in, we do ask that you consider smashing that like button if you enjoy this type of content, as it does help the video out. And if you're not subscribed and hit that notification bell, you need to make sure you do that so you know when we go live or when we post other related content here. As you do come into the stream tonight, please do make sure that you feel welcome to say hello, War Eagle, all that good stuff. Go ahead and share that right now. Also, we do a thing here on all of our live streams where we do a roll call at the very beginning. So a lot of you know this already. Go ahead and post where you are watching from. If it is, city, state, international. Sometimes we get some international people in here. So that's all of your instructions for the start of the show. And as we get started tonight, I always share the ways that you can help support the content that we do here on this channel. One of those is pinned in the very top of the chat window. You can join the Booster Club for as little as $1 a month. It does help us out in terms of producing this type of content. There's also PayPal or TeePublic Store, and the easiest and free way to do it is just listen to the podcast and hang out over there with us and check out the content that we're doing on the podcast network. Those links are in the description for this video, but also there's a link available for you in that. Good to see a lot of our regulars already assembling here tonight. We have got Robert, Sam, Joe, Casey, Neil. Good to see all of you. Jackson, Tennessee, checking in. Boaz, Alabama. Now, a little quick aside here. My wife has a lot of family ties to Boaz, Alabama, so I always kind of pay attention when that name comes up because it's such a small little town in a small little state. We've got my East Cobb Snob fellow man right here, and with Neil, Oak Mountain, Birmingham, Alabama, another Birmingham, Alabama. Good crowd assembling tonight. All right, so I told you guys that I would try to do somewhat of a more regular schedule, and one of those was testing out what night of the week would be good to start doing some type of these. So this one, there's no topic that is prepared for tonight. I wanted to try to maybe get on a, like I said, a somewhat regular schedule, not completely saying it's always going to be at this time, at this hour, and all this stuff like that. But want to give you guys the opportunity of, hey, we can be here, chat, talk about whatever's on your mind. So I have no agenda. Obviously, there's plenty of things out there that I can talk about and share my opinions on. But really, I want tonight to be about you all and what's on your mind in the Auburn family spectrum. And if you want to talk about things other than Auburn stuff, we can as well. This is just a time for us to connect and hang out with each other for a few minutes tonight. Probably will be a shorter stream, but just a time for us to hang out. By the way, I do need to give a shout out to Joe, who is one of our Booster Club members over at Patreon. Thank you, Joe, for supporting what we do over here. Appreciate that, man, so very much. I always give people shout outs that are part of that. Boaz is growing. Yes, it is. Boaz brings back memories of road trips to the outlet malls. So my wife tells me stories about that all the time, about how they had a family farm out there, but they used to tell me that they would go on trips to go shopping at the malls. And then you drive through Boaz now, and it's like, really? This was like a hub of place, to be? It's no offense to Boaz, Alabama. It's just not a lot there right now, aside from an old country town, which there's nothing wrong with. I really like. How is Auburn looking on offense? Well, we're going to find out about that in 3 days. Today's Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yes. So about a little less than 3 days exactly from now, we will be we'll know how the offense actually looks. Look, here's the thing that I'll tell you, and I've said 1,000 times to everybody. A-Day, if you read too much into A-Day, you will make yourself very unhappy. You do not need to read too much into it. How do we look right now? It really depends on the offensive line. And I know that's like a non-answer right there, but really honestly, and I'm like a broken record here, this team, this program will not be successful at the rate people want it to be without a fixed offensive line. So how the offense is doing will be indicative of how the offensive line is doing. Yes, Casey brings up a great point that Coach Harris, our new women's basketball coach, is already making the rounds on hires. Kitara, I forget her last name, but she is a former player at Mississippi State, I believe. So she's bringing in some young talent to connect with some of these players. You always want to have the coach in your staff that is like, I won't say the rah-rah type because not everybody can be a Travis Williams, but that's like the prototype that I can say, someone that connects with the players. Robert says he missed the A-Day game. Are you saying you miss it or you'll miss it? It's a little bit of a typo there. If you're going to miss it, I'm sad because it's one of the best experiences that an Auburn fan can have, in my opinion, if you're not able to go to not just A-Day, but A-Day weekend. A-Day weekend is one of the best Auburn experiences out there. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I think people take for granted. And I would, if they show up tonight, I'll give them a shout out, but I'll also call them out for how much they disdain and dislike the A-Day game. It's just a glorified practice. Of course it is, but that's not what it's about. It's about getting together with your Auburn family just to kind of whet your appetite for football coming in the future, but also to do some other things as well. Gotta love the typos, so you'll miss it. Yeah, so unfortunately, not only will I guess I got to go buy my ticket, to be honest with you. Haven't done that yet, or tickets. Anybody else going that had to buy 2 tickets? I put a call out on social media to see if anybody had an extra ticket I could buy from them, because you had to buy them in allotments of 2 because of the whole COVID-19 regulations and stuff like that, because they want to spread people out. Or would someone want to get buy my other one from me? But nobody really reached out because it's frustrating. I get why they have to do it, but I'm like, shouldn't you just only charge me for one? It's really frustrating. But maybe I'm wrong about that and just haven't gone all the way through the process. Maybe they do only charge you for one, but it's set in allotments of 2. Paul Finebaum's really annoying. Just wanted to get that out there. Oh, trust me, we could talk about that. It really is. Let me answer this real quick. Is there a baseball softball game that night? So I will give you the schedule right here because I've been looking at this. If you're coming in Friday, you've got a softball game at night and a track and field meet all day. If you're coming on Saturday for the football game, which is at 1 o'clock it starts, track and field will start in the morning and run through most of the day as well. Softball is just before the game. I think it starts maybe at 11. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like that's the right answer. And then once the football game's over, the sports for the day will be over with in terms of that are on campus. And then if you're staying Sunday, there's a softball game, I think, at 2 or 1, one of those. So there's plenty to do. If I was the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, I was the Auburn University people in a normal year with not COVID-19 stuff, they're missing huge opportunities not to have tennis going on right now, not to have a baseball series there as well. I know that makes it crowded and all that stuff, but this is the time you need to be maximizing on the people being on campus. Noah, I like Auburn because they don't do crazy third version unis. Trust me, there are people who really, really want that. All right, back on what Neil said. Paul Finebaum. So a lot of you may have seen, I think, if you're not part of our Facebook group, it's called the Auburn Family Tree, and it's got like E2 the network in the name too, so that's how you can differentiate it. But if you're not if you are on Facebook, please come join the Facebook group over there, and it's kind of we hang out. Let me always stress when I promote that, we really try hard to make it an environment that is we're not talking about being sunshine pumpers and all that kind of stuff. But, message boards, and that's kind of what it is, tend to get a little bit, who can make the cattiest comment and never have to, face someone for saying it. So we're trying to avoid that type of stuff. So there are some rules and stuff in there, but very rarely do we have to do anything about it. So if you haven't joined, I encourage you to come over there, share anything Auburn. We talk about sports. We talk about food. I think one of our most popular posts lately is when we shared the new barbecue place that was coming to Auburn in the old Mike and Ed's. And it was crazy how that was more popular than talking sports in there. It's funny who enjoys talking about what. As you're coming in, please do make sure you smash that like button if you haven't, just as a reminder to help tell other people that we're live right now. But back on the Paul Finebaum thing, I shared in there, and he made this statement, idiotic statement, that the Georgia-Florida rivalry has now surpassed currently in the Auburn-Alabama rivalry. If you've been here for a while in this live, you know I try to always remind you that media people, their job is to get you to click. Their job is to get you to listen, to watch. So if they know they've got two fan bases that are very riled up, and when you throw the two of them together, especially when you're trying to imply that we don't have the best rivalry, it's a pretty smart idea to get clicks. Paul Finebaum doesn't mean this. Paul Finebaum is just trying to get people fired. And that's why I said that his ratings and his numbers must be down, because he had to stir up a controversy that he doesn't even believe. There is no scenario where Florida and Georgia surpass Auburn and Alabama, even in the worst of times, as the best rivalry of the SEC. Absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous take on his part. Casey says baseball's about to get on a roll with win 13 out of the last 18 games to win a few in the SEC tournament, and we'll make the NCAA tournament regions. It's Casey, as I always tell you, you are the master of hyperbole, and I think you're stretching a little bit there. They can do it, and I think when I say that, let me remind everybody with this: the testament that this baseball team is a lot better than the record looks was last night. And I'm completely embarrassed because I live here outside of Atlanta, and I should have remembered that there's a softball game going on right now outside of Atlanta too for Auburn and Georgia State that I could have gone to, and I just dropped the ball this week. It's been a busy week trying to get ready for A-Day weekend. So I should have been there, and I could have been live and all that stuff, but unfortunately I wasn't. But they beat number 20 Georgia Tech. So the baseball team is very good. It's just a tough year in the toughest conference and the toughest division in baseball right now. Fine Bama talking about the Florida-Georgia was his effort as to not only help the SEC East promotion-wise, but also to try to make he is. It's one of the most ridiculous takes I've seen. And Paul Finebaum is one of those people that, and God bless him. Look, he's trying to make a living, and he does a great job at it, obviously, because he gets people to watch and tune into his stuff. So I don't fault him for that, but it just, I see right through it, Paul. I really do. It's a terrible, terrible, just take, and he doesn't mean it. You reckon any chance at getting Desi Stills? He posted on Instagram his top two were Texas A&M and Auburn, but quickly deleted it. Always remember, Mr. McGrady, that the student athletes and recruits in high school sometimes just like the idea of us paying attention to them. And so especially when I see a scenario where somebody posts something, goes to the effort of posting something, and then quickly deletes it, that's just wanting some clicks, some follows, and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that he's not going to come. I would say if Auburn can bring in Walker Kessler from UNC, they can bring about anybody in. So I'm not saying it's not a thing, but just anytime you see Instagram posts, and especially after they're quickly deleted, just don't bother with that. That's just somebody that wants to, get some clicks and likes. And if he comes, I'm going to be happy to have him, because we actually have 2 spots left. I think we broke this down the other day on our live stream, how many spots are left for the Auburn basketball team. 2 of those being, or one of those may be taken up by JT Thor if he comes back. So there's another spot left when we need a guard. But happy to have Walker Kessler. Auburn and Georgia is a better rivalry than Florida Georgia. Absolutely it is. What Paul was trying to say was that because of Auburn being down in some aspect, there are teams that would kill for 8-win seasons year in and year out, which shows you how spoiled we are as a fan base sometimes. Auburn and Georgia is still, I would say, honestly, Auburn and LSU, Alabama LSU, are still bigger rivalries than Florida Georgia. It's a good rivalry. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Florida Georgia isn't one of the top 10, 15 rivalries in college football, but it's not better than the Iron Bowl, even in its worst moments. That's just for clicks. The ironic part about Finebaum's comment is AU has won a national championship in the last 10 years, in Florida UGA, not so much. I have a guy who married into our family, married my cousin. He's a Florida fan. We were talking last night, and he was trying to trash talk with me about Florida, and I was like, when was the last time y'all were he said, when was the last time y'all did something big? I was like, well, we won the SC 2013. We were in the national championship in 2013. When was the last time y'all were there? They were in the SEC championship game, I think 2017. No, that would be us versus Georgia. Anyway, they were there, but they haven't won anything recently. Who do you think? It's a great question. Who do you think scores the first touchdown in the spring game? I mean, the easy answer is Tank. I'm going to say a tight end. I don't know why. Look, I'm not the biggest tight end proponent. Landon King? Does that feel like a good one? Landon King, tight end? Maybe that. Nowadays, you can listen to podcasts, read articles, all solely focused on your team. I don't know why anyone would pay ESPN, Finebaum any attention, ignore the garbage, and let them die out. And that's definitely a way to make that happen. Look, I think personally it's good to get outside your spectrum every once in a while just to kind of see what everybody's saying and everything. To take in a little bit of extra stuff. I wouldn't necessarily want to write him off forever and he can do his own thing. But, here's the thing about the Paul Finebaum show. It brings in some of the most hilarious Alabama fan rejects ever. For that comedy factor, now he does it for Auburn fans too. All fans, really. He's gotten a lot of Tennessee fans there. They're pretty weird too. But yeah, I agree with you. The best way you can do that is just ignore them. But that's all this article was. My numbers are down. This is really the low point. I'll pull the curtain back for you guys a little bit, and you can help with this. This is the low part of podcasting for us in the year. Every single year, right after football, it just shoots way up for us in terms of listen numbers because everybody wants to talk about football. Kind of dips a little bit in the middle season, but comes back up towards the end, especially with basketball getting started. It dips a little bit again when football finishes, but as basketball moves towards the end, comes back up, and then it kind of, as soon as basketball, it just tanks out. And it's just, we have our regular people that listen to everything that we do, and if you're one of those, thank you. But right now, where there's not a lot of football, a lot of basketball talk, it sometimes you got to generate some stuff, and I think that's probably going to be the same for him. We get a lot of players on the roster that were in the World Series team a few years ago. Not worried yet. Talking about baseball. Paul must have forgotten the 2019, 2017 Iron Bowls. Yeah. But Paul didn't forget. Paul knew what he was doing. Are you bringing any T-Public shirts for E2C? Well, I'm missing the number 2, not the T. I'm just messing with you. No, unfortunately. I do not. The way these work is I have to order them on demand. So I really, when I give them out, it's usually because someone won a contest or something like that. Or, some of you guys, have, are entitled to some in the booster club and stuff like that. So I don't have them on hand. One day, hopefully when we're a bigger operation, hopefully we can have them on hand and give them out at willy-nilly. And, T-Public is not built for mass production of it. It's kind of as you need orders type of stuff. And it serves the purpose right now. But if you want one, you can go over there and buy one now. I think actually a sale is going on today. I got an update, 35% off. In fact, I'm just going to throw it up there. Even if this is not true, they're always having a sale, so it doesn't hurt to check. But you can do 35% off $13 t-shirts. You can get our logo. And just as a reminder, when you look at this t-shirt, if you don't like the background color, you can get several different options. And I've seen several different iterations of this. Jessica has a darker gray one, my wife, and it looks really good. And then there's some other Auburn sports-related gear there as well that you can check out. I honestly love Finebaum, but his format is outdated, and he knows it. The sports world is now mobile and team-oriented. Right now, I'm an Auburn undercover, and I know all I need to know. Yeah, they obviously are the big dog, and it's funny to watch them absorb everybody else because Inside the Auburn Tigers is now part of them. I never thought I'd see the day that I would see Inside the Auburn Tigers not just be their standalone thing. It kind of makes me sad because my dad grew up with that, and I remember like getting his magazines that he would get in the mail and reading them and stuff like that. So my mom does this. Maybe she forgot this year, but usually every year she renews Dad's subscription, and it's still under his name for me. So it's kind of like the one tie that I have with my dad, who passed away some years back, but was a big Auburn fan. I think LSU versus Alabama is overrated. LSU has only won twice in the last 10 years. I think the only reason that I would throw it in there is because it has every year it seems to have implications towards the national championship game, and I think it's pretty similar to why Auburn and LSU is a rivalry. That trio is really what decides the West. In reality, Texas A&M is trying to make a play for it, but they'll be down again soon. Jimbo always fails. 2008 was the last time UF won the SEC, and then there was one year in the 2010s where they went to the championship against Alabama and they lost. I know that. I hate UGA more than any other team, but UGA owns us. We have struggled to get first down Athens for a decade now. It's been a frustrating, pretty frustrating couple of years with Georgia. It has nothing really to do with Gus other than he was the head coach. Sometimes people just get streaks on you, and it's really frustrating. There have been several opportunities with several coaches to break the streak in LSU, and it hasn't happened yet. So it doesn't really matter who the coach is. It's frustrating regardless. Defense scores first. Now, if you pay attention to some of the notes coming out of practice discussions, press conferences and things like that, they've been more impressed with the defense, it seems like, than the offense, which is frankly not surprising. Now, if I remember correctly, James, this is actually Bo, which is always confusing. I think you can go in there and change your name so I never forget it. But anyway, Bo Butler, JJ will score the first touchdown. I'm talking about Pegigs, or Pigsasis, as I like to call him. That's not a bad pick. They know the fans love him, and this is an event that it is meant for them to get better, but it's meant as a fan type of atmosphere and wanting to give something back to the fans. So wouldn't be surprised if they tug on that J.J. Pekeeg's heartstring that the Auburn fans have and should have. He's quite a beast. Okay, don't mean to change the subject. Hold on, but this looks like a little personal, Luster. Okay, I can not that I wouldn't let this on here, but I was just trying to make sure. Didn't mean to change the subject from sports, but we lost our dad back in June of last year due to cancer. My mom's trying to give up, so I asked for prayers for our family. I know this isn't a place to do. No, this is always a place to do this. Please, anybody that is a believer, I am as well, in Jesus and his power to save us. And sometimes that doesn't mean saving us the way we think of it, but I do believe in the power of prayer. So if anybody here is part of that, let's shoot some prayers over to Robert tonight for him and his family. Let's see. I just realized I'm way behind in chat. All right, here we go. Favorite football team other than championship team? It's probably going to be, and it wouldn't be the championship team, to be honest with you. My favorite team would probably be the 2004 team. They overcame so much after being so hyped in the 2003 year to come back and do what they did and to come so short and to not by nothing that they did wrong. They completely beat everybody they needed to beat and should have been in the national title game and would have beaten USC. I know I have my orange and blue glasses on, but they would have. I think 2004 would be my favorite team. Anybody else share theirs? 2004 for me, best team I've ever seen at AU. They were good on both sides of the ball, which is crazy. 2013. LSU Streak will end this year. Bo will plant the big blue AU flag at midfield like Baker did at Ohio State. I would much rather we not do anything to stir up further jinxes and voodoo and trouble there. I'd like to get the win and get out of there. Let's make it a streak in Baton Rouge before we really start doing some antics. Sean Shivers will score the first touchdown. Now, you know I love that because I call him Shiver Me Timbers. I know his name is Shivers, but Shivers Me Timbers is what I yell every, like, I go, Shiver Me Timbers, every time he scores. Detarvius Johnson or Pegeeks, not bad. 04 team. I was in the 6th grade. Those dudes were gods to me. Well, they certainly could throw the football around, run it around, intercept it around. You don't see it's very comparable to the Final Four team for Auburn basketball. When you see you see this group of guys with a lot of talent come together and do something so amazing that people weren't anticipating because they were anticipating the year before, it just really resonates with you. So that's why that team is so special. No cigars this time, buddy. I would look. That's what jinxed us since then. So I would say here's what needs to happen. Auburn goes into LSU this year, and if Coach Harsin pulls off that win, he literally needs to drag every player off the field and run to the bus. Don't even change. Get in the bus, leave, and celebrate when you get back here. Let's not do that anymore. We need to make sure we have streaks at that location until we start throwing out cigars and other hijinks and planting. We stomped on the eye of the tiger one time after the Hurricane game that got rescheduled, and that didn't work out so well. Let's get the dub and get out of there. I predicted that LSU was going to be like Auburn was after Cam Newton, and I was kind of right. I think that was a. I won't say it was because it sounds mean, but it wasn't an easy prediction to make. But it makes sense, right? When you see that amount of talent leaving all at once, I mean, what's going to happen? You saw it happen, like you said, after the 2010 season. They weren't as steady, and it wasn't just Cam Newton that they lost. Lost a lot of players, a lot of the offensive line. I would argue that Auburn's struggles, not necessarily the success, but the struggles they had were more affected by the offensive linemen they lost after the 2010 season than Cam Newton. It's a bold statement. It's a hot take, but I'd stand by it. Walker Kessler, amazing pickup. Absolutely. A lot of people, I think I said this last live stream that Casey was planting that flag for Walker Kessler coming here, and I wouldn't believe it. And here I am, surprised and happy for it. So happy. Think Shivers is actually going to knock more helmets according to their new downhill idea. What always interests me is when you see these buzzwords start floating around. Downhill, no nonsense. It's like, I don't know. To me, it just feels weird. It's always been downhill to some degree, but we'll see what happens when you get on the field. If it truly is more downhill, then yeah, maybe. But I don't get the buzzwords sometimes. What's going on, Larry? Good to see you, War Eagle, my friend. Where are you watching from? Post that while you're here. LSU will finish last in the SEC West this year. Not quite. That is always held for Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. Let's see. Ooh, back it up. My roommate is an LSU alumni. He's dying over here. But that 04 team also was a great representation of Auburn. Not even getting the title shot locked me in. Auburn for life. Us against the world feeling. And look, let me get on my soapbox for a minute. And I'm serious about this, but I'm not to get all mushy and touchy feely over here, but that's the Auburn story. The 04 team is the Auburn story. The Auburn story is not being in the spotlight. And I've said this here before. I'm not going to do it again tonight because I've done it recently. The story of Auburn is the story of Pat Sullivan and Suge Journey. If you haven't looked that up, you need to. Very much reflected in that. Almost reaching the mountaintop, but just never quite getting there, unless every once in a while, and it makes it so much sweeter. I value our one national championship more than Alabama fans ever value their numerous ones. It makes it so much sweeter. Auburn men's basketball is booming in recruiting and the transfer portal. Yes, they were going to need to take advantage of that with the rate. If you remember when we stopped the season, I said, transfer portal, let's wait and see. Probably it's not what I really want to do, but with Sharif officially leaving, JT Thor possibly leaving, with Jamal transferring, with Javon Franklin transferring, with who else? Justin Powell. Then you had to go into the transfer portal. So they did a good job of that. Speaking of downhill, RP to baseball, those identical scores back-to-back made me laugh. Great win today. Yeah, it is. Baseball's having a tough year. Jackson's Gap, Alabama. No traffic light or convenience store. Those are the best towns in Alabama. All right, let's see here. LSU does not have a defense. LSU has no quarterback. So Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State all beat LSU this season. I'm calling it, not changing my mind. Well, you're 1 for like 20 here on your predictions with the whole Walker Kessler thing. So every dog has their day. Just messing with you, Casey. All right, let me do this. I told you guys it's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream. I'm not leaving just right now. Keep the questions, comments coming. Not really rapid fire, but, just get them in here. These are the ways that you can help support what we do here. Make sure that you're subscribed, notification bell. Check out some of these links in the description for this video, but also the one pinned at the top. Come check out the Booster Club. I hope you'll consider at least checking it out. You can even sign up for it and not get charged till the beginning of the month. And you could say, hey, April 30th rolls around. I don't really want to get charged. You can leave, but you can at least come over there and see all the type of content that we share over there that you might get a little bit extra. Thank you to people like Joe who are part of the Booster Club. Appreciate you guys so much. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Would have beat USC 23-14. I can get on board with that. LSU will have a QB. Who is their quarterback? I can't even remember, to be honest with you. Bruce Pearl was one of the greatest hires in Auburn history. I'm hoping the football hire does the same thing. Yeah, I would say I wanted Auburn to do what they did with the Bruce Pearl hire, meaning go out and get the best, like, on paper available. Now, when I say that, please don't get all riled up. Just hear me out. I'm not saying that Brian Harson's not going to be a great hire, and I hope he is. I believe he can be. I believe he will be. But on paper, when you fire a top 10 paid salaried coach, you need to go higher than that. So there were only few options really out there for that, and I don't know that Auburn was willing to go out there and do that, which is why I was never in favor of the fire. Now I'm going to get everybody stirred up again about Gus Malzahn. But yes, Bruce Pearl is probably one of the greatest hires. May go down as one of the best, or the best. We'll see. Yeah, we talked about Sills a little earlier. We'll see. There's just some interesting social media games being played there with that. A couple other names Casey's throwing out here for some things to look at for basketball recruiting. The most unexpected loss was Justin Powell. I think that's really what rocked us during the offseason, because nobody knew that was coming. Like, literally, everybody was like, what? And then the whole going to Tennessee thing, that just is like twisting the knife even harder into you. Yeah, they will have to utilize the transfer. The women's basketball team will have to utilize the transfer portal a lot. Yeah, I saw this yesterday, Cam. The FPI ranks Auburn's schedule as the second toughest in the nation. I mean, so if you want to see how much a joke the SEC East is, I don't think there was anybody even listed on there. I think if there was one, it was somebody that had to play like Alabama on this year. Auburn has to play every single year. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, and yeah, That alone ensures. And when you throw Penn State into the mix this year and the rest of the SEC, it's not easy being an Auburn Tiger. If we hadn't lost to Texas A&M in 2014 in that heartbreaking loss, would Gus still be at Auburn? Gus really has never been the same since that game. No, I mean, that game had the thing that got Gus fired was the offensive line. I know y'all are tired of me being a broken record, but the thing that got Gus fired was the offensive line. If that problem, if he had not hired Herb Hand, which he made the same mistake now at UCF, if he had not hired him, and I'm not going to go down that. I've said it 1,000 times. Offensive line is what ultimately got him fired, because it's ultimately what lost those games and made him less successful against the teams that people wanted him to be. Miles Brennan, Brad Johnson, ex-Buccaneers head coach, son will end up winning the job. Interesting. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. I want to be in the playoff conversation. Is like the team that is always picked at least in the top 10 rankings, like Auburn used to be. Fair. It's a fair ask. 24/7 ranks Coach Harsin the third best coach in the country. Okay. I mean, I don't know what they base that on. Are they saying, like, I don't understand how he's the third best coach in the country. If you're saying because he's at Auburn, sure, because of the talent they bring in and all that stuff. How would you feel if we get moved to the SEC East? Because I hear it potentially could happen in the future. We've been hearing that forever, Ehan, and I wish so much it would happen. I really do. It makes geographical sense. It makes sense for Auburn recruiting. Rivalry-wise, we have more ties to Florida, Tennessee, Georgia than Mississippi, Ole Miss. LSU's only become a rivalry because we were stuck over here. I'd much rather see LSU once every 6 years and see Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and we see Georgia every single year, but every single year. God, it would be so good. And Alabama every single year. It's like my dream. How many games do you make it to? It depends. So what I do during a regular football season, where we can all attend games and have tailgating, I usually go to campus for all the home games if I can. Do a lot of like social media stuff there, and then try to get in the games if I can. If I can't, I usually watch them in the student center. Now with COVID-19, who knows how that's going to be. So my answer would be I'm at all the home games I can be, whether I'm actually in the game or not. SEC East is a joke. Yep. 100% the old line. All right, I'm just kind of rapid firing here. Had Gus addressed the offensive line, Auburn would have had many more wins. I agree. I'll never understand how Gus failed the O-line. The O-line is so important. I mean, it was his hiring of Herb Hand. That is it. Herb Hand destroyed the offensive line, and it couldn't be rectified. Like, it was so bad, it couldn't be rectified. Recruiting, it's too much to get into tonight because I do kind of have to wrap up here in a second, but it's just awful. Sorry, I know I'm skipping over a lot of y'all's thing, but I'm trying to hit the high points here. I don't want to be in the East. I like competition. I don't think you're removing yourself from the competition because you're still playing Alabama every year, and then you're going to rotate everybody in from the West. I understand. I see you're saying that it's moving to an easier division in the conference. 100% true. But it just makes sense. The pros of losing maybe being beating the best every single year. You still have to beat the best of the West every single year. That means we get to play Alabama twice. How awesome would that be? I'd love that. Be awesome. All right. Felix, we're just about to head out, my man. He is another of our Patreon members over at the E2C Network Booster Club. Thanks for being here. All right, guys, I do need to head out tonight. I got people over at my house, but I wanted to pop on here. Remember, I'm going to try to do these on a more regular basis if I can. Maybe on Wednesday nights, maybe on Monday nights. So make sure you're subscribed, have that notification bell marked so you know when we go live. I believe the War Report guys are going live in like 20 minutes. So if you want to stay on YouTube and check on over there, just make sure you tell them that the E2C Network sent you over there. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. And stay tuned. We'll be doing some more stuff live. And I'll be on campus for A-Day weekend. Stay tuned on social media. Till I talk to you again, War Eagle.